Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this channel, Girls for STEM USA. Remember, we are here to encourage girls pursue science and technology. We are here to showcase other role models that are pursuing STEM. And we are here to usher these girls, to expose them to so many different endeavors, technology, careers that are out there. How can they know? Because remember, guys, most people stumble to understand these things. So, guys, welcome, welcome. And remember, if you are here for the first time, make sure to subscribe. And, guys, I'm so excited today. I have a very important guest. Guys, I have important guests all the time, but this one, she's very special to me. Her name is Emelda Atencio. And before I preempt you guys, I would like herself to introduce herself. So let's welcome her. I'm going to bring her up. So we are going to discuss so many things. How did she go into STEM? How did she navigate? How did she become, where she is? I think that's very interesting, especially for us women to see how other women are progressing. And she has a lot to share with us. So stay right there, guys. Don't go away. Hi, thank you so much, Dr. Atencio. I'm really excited to have you. Thank you so much. I know you're very busy, but just to take some time to come and hang with us here at Girls for STEM USA, we are really privileged.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me, and it was nice to meet you a couple weeks ago. And thanks for introducing me to your platform here. And happy to be here.
Wow, thank you so much. Yes, so we're going to dive into it right away. So, Dr. Atencio, I would like to you to introduce or to say, what are you doing today? Who are you? What are you doing today?
Who am I? That's a really loaded question. But what I do today is, so I work for the Air Force Research Lab. I call us
Yes.
the research arm for the United States Air Force. Do all kinds of awesome types of cutting edge technology. And right now I'm in management. I'm what they call a division chief, and I oversee about close to 100 civilians and military and about another 100 contractors. And I oversee, I'm in the high energy laser, in the laser division. So I oversee all the technology that we're working on in high powered lasers and in what we call beam control, basically ways to get light and the laser through the atmosphere. And so it's called adaptive optics. And I'll explain a little bit about that if you'd like. You can see
Yes, we would love
behind.
to know that. Please go ahead. So, let me say this before I ask so many questions. So, what's so interesting about what you do, really? What's so interesting? And guys, she's the chief technologist at the Air Force Laser Division. If I make a mistake, please correct me. And guys, as a woman to be in the position she has, I think that's mesmerizing to look forward to see how did she get there. So what's so interesting, particularly in what you do? Could you share briefly with our viewers?
Well, I'm going to go back a little bit because if you look at the picture behind me, it's hard to see, but
We can see it.
it's a telescope facility, and
Yes.
I call myself a telescope geek. I love telescopes. I love astronomy from when I was a young kid, and
Yes.
so I moved around. I worked at this facility for about 19 years of my career behind me, and I kind of morphed around, and now I'm in the laser division and moved up into the management, as I said. But what I love about what I do is just the cutting edge technology and doing things for the actual very first time. When you're actually working on a project that nobody has ever done before, we do research
Yes.
that's very groundbreaking. And now I oversee this research. So I love things related to optics. And so I like lasers. I would joke with some of my folks uh, I'm more of an engineer than a physicist. And I would joke with them that just give me really good light out of your laser and I'll do the rest. And now it's kind of funny. I'm in the laser division where they really do develop the guts of a laser, and it's that physics, deep down physics, and how everything works. And because we're making lasers out of different things, you may see a laser pointer and stuff like that. Those have been around
Yes.
for time, but we actually make new laser types of lasers out of fiber optics. So you probably think of fibers in communication. And you've probably seen, a lot of you have seen fibers, and actually I use them in my mentoring programs, and I put a light through one end of the fiber and you can see it at the other end, and to show kids. But we use that in all of our communications. That's where how a lot of our cable comes into our house. It's all through fiber networks. But in my division, we actually create lasers out of that. We excite that the glass. We put what we call impurities or into that glass in that fiber, and we can excite it and make a laser out of it. And so
Wow.
it's really fascinating and cool. And I love what our group is doing. And the other thing that took from where I was it's a place called the Starfire Optical Range behind me, is they perfected a technique called adaptive optics. So
Yes.
if you look out at a star and you see it twinkling, it's
Yes.
because of our atmosphere. Basically, I usually have a sheet of paper that, light comes in flat like a sheet of paper.
Yes.
And then our atmosphere kind of makes it all messed up. So it's all crinkled. And
Yes.
and we have a system that literally actually can measure those little crinkles and talk to, we call it a deformable mirror, but it's a thin mirror, and it has little actuators that push and pull on the back, and it changes the shape so that it's opposite of this shape. And then as the light bounces off that mirror, reflects off of it, it's flat again, like another flat sheet of paper. And so we can in an instant correct the atmosphere from that blob to a nice point that you see the star. And in my division, we use that because we need to propagate lasers through the atmosphere, and they get messed up, and we want a lot of power on wherever we're pointing it at. And so we use that in a little bit of reverse way, not in imaging, but to correct it so that our laser beams are sharper at their destination. So that's kind of like the basics. And so I took a lot of that technology, is what I've worked on for years at the telescope facility, and now I oversee it in different ways in my division.
Wow.
Kind of
You know,
wild,
when
huh?
you mentioned telescope, I'm mesmerized about telescopes. And I always love seeing new technology. And especially, I'm sure you heard about the James Webb telescope that also went
Oh,
to
yes.
space. And I've been encouraging these young kids. I'm like, oh my God, we will have so good images that are going to come up from space there. Wow, that's interesting. And thank you so much for simplifying what you do. It looks so simple, but there's so much technology, mathematics behind it. So in
Yes.
simple terms, what would you say? What is a laser?
So
A laser beam.
a laser beam is a single wavelength of light. So a light bulb, the sun has multiple wavelengths. And I don't know, I don't have a picture right here of the electromagnetic spectrum, but you can go look
Yes.
up on the web very easily. And there's a
Yes.
little band there that's visible. And so we have the band goes from X-rays, which are really, really short wavelengths,
Yes.
to radio waves, which are meter length wavelengths. I usually use a
Yes.
slinky. You can oscillate a slinky, and the distance between the 2 points on the slinky as it's oscillating is a wavelength of light. But the wavelength of light that our eyes are sensitive to, and what we use for lasers, we're talking microns, a millionth of a meter. So
Yes.
really tiny part of a meter. That's what those little, between those two little humps are. And so with white light, as we call it, like a light bulb or the sun, it's got a bunch of different wavelengths in it. And so it's not just one single one. And if you take a prism, I love with prisms, and you can make a rainbow. Well, it's separating out those individual wavelengths. So a laser is just basically a single wavelength.
A
Very
single
tiny,
wavelength.
narrow. We call it, it's very coherent. It's this very narrow wavelength. It maybe a couple together, but the band is very, very small. So you can kind of think of it in easy terms as a single wavelength of light. And because you've got that single wavelength of light, it doesn't spread out as much. And so your light is very directional and stuff. So it makes it more powerful. You can do a lot more things with it, with this type of light. And so it's kind of fascinating. I like light. I've always been fascinated with light. I love optics, I love cameras, I love telescopes, and I'm fascinated with the light around us and how colors that we see and how we can manipulate that.
You
I'm a
know, it's amazing. I always say that, STEM gives us those skills that we learn and we understand our environment. I'm just imagining your mind and brain, how it thinks when you look at things around you and the light and the things that you can do with it. And I always encourage kids, I'm like, guys, STEM unlocks it unlocks your unimaginable things that you will be able to understand your environment. Look at how Dr. Atencio, she's saying how she understands just light and what can be made out of light. She deals with leather. She's a chief technologist concerning laser at the Air Force. And amazing. And it's so good to hear a woman speaking these technical words. It's rare that you see that. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're still going to get back to these discussions, but before we go there, I would like to take you back when you were little, when you were about, let's say, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, depending on when you just, you were able to think, to see things. The reason I'm asking these questions because I always ask engineers, technologists, healthcare professionals, because mothers, kids ask, how can we be engineers? How can we become engineers? So what I'm trying to say is, what's going on in your life around that time? Is your mom and dad talking about science, technology, your neighbors, your aunties? What's going on? Can we hear from you? Share with my viewers what's going on around you. How did it start?
Well, I love that question because I think it's kind of cool. I grew up in a really small town in northern New Mexico, very rural area, and we
Yes,
had one little street light way down the road, so it was pretty dark.
yes,
And we camping a lot, and I was fascinated with the stars. Fascinated from probably elementary. I can't quite remember. Maybe definitely fourth, fifth grade is kind of more when I remember that, and I started to learn about what astronomy was. And
yes,
I don't remember why we had an Encyclopedia Britannica, maybe through that. I don't quite remember. But I know I would we'd go to this is in the 60s, 70s. So this is quite a while
yes,
back. And we'd go into Santa Fe, which is the cap about 50 miles away where we shop. And they had a bookstore at the first mall, so you can date me on that. But I would
yes,
sit there at the bookstore because I always loved books. I always loved to read, would always books on all kinds of things. And they had astronomy magazine still here today. And I would sit there and read it in the bookstore, sit there
yes,
on the floor, and I would just be mesmerized with all the pictures and I'd read everything. And we were pretty poor, so I couldn't really afford all the time. Every once in a while I bought a magazine. And now they're really expensive. I look back then, I said, dang, they were cheap, but it's all relative. But
yes,
anyway, I was very interested in astronomy and I wanted to be an astronomer, and I read everything about telescopes. I still have books today on building your backyard telescope. And so I was good in math and I love science. I just loved learning about what was around me. And I want to shout out to parents here because I would read that there'd be a meteorite shower or a comet or something that was coming up. And we had a lot of land, and there was part behind our house that was spooky. And for an 8, 10-year-old, probably 10-year-old, and I'd wake up my mom to come out
yes,
with me. And my mom would do that. We would go out at 3 a.m. to go look for a comet. And I had my dad's old binoculars that he gave me, and I would just dream of having a telescope. And they were expensive. So, I'd always read about how to make one in your garage, so to speak, and stuff. So that was really my genesis, is I wanted to be an astronomer. And I always knew I was going to go to college. I I ended up graduating from in Albuquerque. I went to live with my dad in the larger city, and kind of struggled around a bit. Started off in physics and then went into engineering. Excuse me.
yes,
Went into engineering because computers were coming up around that time in the early
yeah,
80s. I was in undergraduate school, and And so I joke with folks, and this is no disrespect to any computer engineer or computer scientist, but they'll get the joke, is that so I got interested, but I got bored with ones and zeros. So binary math, because
Yeah.
computers work on ones and zeros. So I joke about that. But at New Mexico State University, where I was at as an undergraduate, they were starting our engineering department, the electrical engineering had different emphasis. And they, computers was one. Now they have a full computer engineering, but power, different things. And they were starting an electro optics emphasis. And I said, oh, that sounds more like what I would like to do. So I went into that area, and I still, so shout out to professors, because, I did really well in geometrical optics, is what it's called. It's basically how you're tracing those rays of light through an optical system. I just seemed to be able to do this in my head. And I could just see it, and I learned the math to do that. So apparently I was throwing off the curve on the tests, and this professor pulls me aside. That's when I joke too. That's when I was really shy, and I thought I did something wrong. And I go talk.
He's like, come here. Yeah.
Yeah, and he says, come after class. I'm like, oh no, what did I do? But he says, you're really good at this. Have you thought about going into optical design? And I'm kind of simplifying it a bit, but I said, oh yeah, cool. What is that? And so he helped me understand more what that is. So I really wanted to be an optical designer, and because I could see how light would get formed and go through lenses and mirrors, and how it would change, and how you could mitigate or correct for errors that happen as you go through pieces of glass.
Yes.
And so that just fascinated me. And so I knew I wanted to go to graduate school, but I was already in a lot of debt getting through undergraduate, and nothing compared to what kids are going through now, because the cost is just exorbitant. But it was still a lot to me. And a professor from University of Arizona, the Optical Sciences Center, came to visit New Mexico State to recruit students. And I thought, well, yeah, I'm going to go there. How do I get there? Because and this is why I mentor too, because I've seen parts in my path that I wish I had somebody help direct me in ways, or explain how things work a little better in terms of getting into schools, paying forms, things like that, which is why I mentor all the way from whatever grade to whatever grade, A to Z,
Yeah.
And made it part of my goal too, to also just get kids of all ages interested in math and science. So worked in the schools a lot. Anyway, I came to work at the Air Force Research Lab because the government labs have programs, which is what we were talked about when I met you,
Yes.
that pay for their employees' path back to school. And so I was product of those earlier programs, and I was able to go to the University of Arizona Optical Sciences Center. And actually the name now is James C. Wyant Optics Center. I forgot the full name now. They changed it, but I still call it the Optical Science Center, and was able to get both my master's and PhD from there. But I work hard. I just so back to, it starts out, I think, if for parents, expose your kids to lots of different things, and now you have many more places to go to expose kids to science. Now I have to say, some kids just that's not their bent. My son is more, he's a social scientist like the rest of my family. I'm pretty much still the geek of the family. and I have to say, early on, being a female in the 60s and 70s that liked math and science was not easy. But I'm also very stubborn, and I like what I like, and I wanted to do what I want to do. And I appreciate my mom support in that, and my dad to some degree, and stuff. So parents being supportive for the path that your kids choose, I think, is really important in that, and let them choose their path, not one of crime or anything, but I mean, but their path in education. I'm sorry, don't mean to be any not to be negative anyway. You have to joke a little bit, but help them to see the different things. And that's why a lot of us are involved in programs. The Air Force has really good programs. We bring kids on, and they have K through, no, not K, let's see, I guess we start with 5th grade through about 11th grade. And programs for kids all along that. help them to teach, first, fifth grade is like the Mars program. You're learning about mission to Mars, and just
Yes.
little things of what it would take to get to Mars, live on Mars, all those things.
Yes.
Start getting them thinking about that, and so if your kids see that they've got that glimmer, they're really interested in that. Really foster that, and help them learn more about it. And I found over time a little bit odd. I've always been very focused on what I wanted to do. I found a lot of other colleagues going through college that they really didn't know what they wanted to do, and it took them.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Help them to. That's why I'm so big on mentoring, to just really help them see what's out there and
Wow.
stuff.
And
Uh,
you know what? I really, really love how you mentioned that when you were young at school, the teacher could see that you were very, very, interested, and you were very smart, especially when it came to how light refracted in the mirrors and things like that. And that's your moment. I could see that's where it all started. And remember, we're trying to find out, how do these engineers become engineers? What's going on in their life? Where did it trigger? And it's very exciting for me to pinpoint where it started just by talking to you, and how it's developing in years as you start going to school. And also later on, when you start mentoring, you still mention that foster that interest from the kids, that they can realize, oh, I'm good at this. Because if nobody mentions it, or nobody points it out, it's very difficult for a kid to realize, this is my passion. Is this what I can do? Of course, we get to a place where you are in college, you still don't know what to do, because there are a lot of people out there, just like you are saying. And I also met some people at college. They were telling me, how did you know you want to be in production, manufacturing systems? How do you know that? I said, I just know. I knew from the time I was young that I really wanted to be in production. I really want to make things, and space was one of them. I was really mesmerized, but I never thought I could get there. I could work for a space company, Northrop Grumman. I never knew it could come, but I followed my passion, and
mhm.
just following your passion, there you are. You are at Air Force Base, and where you are doing just amazing things in research, in the lab, and doing your passion. So thank you so much for really sharing that. I'm sure parents out there, students, kids listening in, you guys, you could tell that you need to be passionate about something. Be a superhero on your own. You can tell what you're passionate about, and you hear people telling you, you're really good at that, you're really good at that, and you can feel it. You are really good at that. You can see things. And I like how you mentioned that, I could see problems, I could see things, and that's what we mean. That's how geniuses come up, where you could see, and ask questions. Why is light going like that? What angle is it making? Things like that makes us, move in front and just keep going. That's really, really interesting. So I want to ask you another question. What are some of the challenges that you faced as a woman growing up from the time when women were not actually pursuing STEM? So could you share that with my viewers a little bit?
Yeah, it was a bit tough. I was one of those classic bullied kids because I did well in school. It's not normal for maybe a female to
For
do
any
well.
average.
Huh? Yeah, what?
Yes.
It wasn't normal
Yeah.
for a female in the 60s and 70s, and sometime now still. I still hear it. It bugs the crud out of me when I still hear that people are saying, why are you interested in that? But I think early on in the elementary and junior high, is I had one teacher that was helpful, maybe more my band teacher, that helped me escape the bullies. And
Yes.
so took pity on me, and not took pity. He was just a really wonderful man. And so he helped me. He gave me the keys to the band room so I could go in and study or work on stuff and get away from the bullies at lunch. So I was always have been grateful to him, but the bullies were hard.
Yeah.
And went to a different high school to also help get away from bullies, and just different life circumstances. But once I got to college, even though I was still one of, in all of my electro-optics, the optics classes in undergrad, it
Yes.
was basically just me as a female. So there was one other girl, but was not part of really the program, just took classes. So
Mm-hmm.
you get used to that after a while. And so I have a good relationship with my male colleagues. They're my brothers, so to speak, you know. So
Yeah.
it helps, I guess, that I'm a little bit of a tomboy. You know, we can talk about trucks and cars and stuff like that. And
And
on the
I'll tell you
science.
something. I'll tell you something, doctor. When I'm asking people, guys, let's support these girls. Girls, we need more girls in engineering. So they always tell me that, why are you talking to me? I'm a boy. I'm a man. Then I said, no, we still need you. I was mentored by a man, just like you said. Starting from your teacher also helped you go study. It was a male person.
Mhm.
So I just want to appeal to men that they are still special in our lives, and they still help us get to another, and we need them to get to another level. I was mentored by a man, Dr. Lee at California State University, and very, very, good mentor. He advised me in so many areas of my life how to do research, because I was also a research assistant in manufacturing
Good.
department.
Good.
And yeah, so I worked as a research as a research assistant, and that was really mesmerizing, being under this man who's mentoring. So men, we still need you. We need you to mentor us, to be part of it. We cannot do this without you. So that's what I just wanted to pinpoint, that part that you mentioned. Yeah.
No, absolutely. We're all a team. And I always say science and technology is not it's a team sport. It's you
Yes.
can't do it by yourself. Everybody thinks that so and so gets a Nobel Prize or whatever, or published paper. There's a lot of people behind that. It's not a single sport, as I say, and so we have to be a team player. And I'm seeing, as time has gone on, more and more men more amenable to that. But you still get one every now and then, even in this day and age, and in the younger generations, that, what are you doing here? So I mean, I would get comments and look at me like, well, how did you get here? Whether it
Yes.
was because I was female or from a really small town. Sometimes
Yes.
it was a derogatory way, and other times it was like, wow, you made it. How did you get here? It's you kind of got the same thing, but in two different ways. Because I come from this small town and end up at these large telescope facility, which was, I achieved my dream sitting on a mountaintop. Did
Yes.
that for 19 years. So that's why I want to tell kids, you can achieve your dream. You got to work hard, but you can do it. And you got to take opportunities when they present themselves. Don't just wait for the next, you think there might be another better one. If this gets you in a little bit different positive direction, I always encourage them, take that, because you don't know where it's going to lead. I'm amazed looking at my career that the choices I made put me in this position that I am now. It just boggles my mind at times, but I know I'm a role model, and I embrace that, and I'm willing. That's why I'm here talking to you, because I want to encourage others that you can do this. You can achieve your dream. And there's always mentors and folks all along the way, teachers, parents, colleagues. My first female mentor was when I started at the Air Force Research Lab, the second year there. She would serve
Yes.
up other females, and she helped me immensely, helped me get to the University of Arizona through the programs. Amazing. I try
Wow.
to do that for others, because some of the men don't mentor. You have to encourage them. But
Yes.
I'm proud of, for my division, that we've got some that are just really good. For others, we had a captain recently, because I work with military as well, not just all civilians, who
Hmm.
very would go to the female STEM things to encourage them. And he's become a really
Yeah.
good mentor. He's now a professor. He's teaching at the Air Force Institute of Technology. So he's a real proponent for everybody. And so he and I, of course, hit it off, and we were like a team to be reckoned with,
Yeah, and once you connect, you network. That's one thing. We need to encourage kids.
Network.
Parents to talk to kids. Networking.
Mhm.
Talking to other people is really important, because these people will actually be a source of one strength. There will be a source of employment, a lot of things, so we really need to network. That's really important.
Absolutely.
Again, guys, we're talking to Laser System Technologies Section Chief at Air Force Research Laboratory for the Air Force. Guys, it's a woman, and I'm just so mesmerized to see where she has gotten, to be in that position. And that's why we're talking to her, to show role models that are there before us. How did they get there? How did they navigate STEM? You heard the story she has told us. If you go back to the video, she was explaining to us when she was young, what was going on until she got to where she is. So, Dr. Atencio, what would you say to a girl growing up in Asia, Africa, here in the United States, in the deep Mississippi area there, wherever they have less privileges? Because, for example, I'm in California here. I would say I'm more privileged. You are in there in Arizona, But what would you say to young people growing up in deep remote areas across the world? How can they become engineers? How can they do it?
I often think about that, and growing up in a really rural area is the best way I can relate. Is I read a lot. I'd get a hold of books, and there weren't always people there that could answer my questions, and thought I was strange to ask these questions. And not strange, that's maybe not a bad way, but they didn't know how, because they weren't
Yes.
fields either. In rural areas, it's hard to find people that are into technology, or understand it, or want to understand it. We're getting there, but
Yes.
there's areas that are not there yet. Even my little town I grew up, there's some that it's getting better in certain areas. They finally got cable in and broadband, all that stuff. It took years. It's been there now for at least 10, 20 years, but it took a long time for all that to come into the rural areas. But I encourage them to, whatever access they do have, is if they do have access to the internet, to go look for things that they're interested in, read about different things. There's the what is it, Khan Academy out there. There's all these
Yes.
different,
Yes.
if your school can't really support some of the classes, like in high school and things, look up on that if you have access to the internet. But there's still should be access to books. Even older books are fine, because it's the basics of science. So basics of science has not changed.
Yeah.
Still
The
work on the
foundation
same
is the same.
foundation. Math has not changed. So older books are still very relevant, in depending what age you're at, and in teaching you the basics, those skills, and work on the math, because math is really the key that helps you explain what's going on around. I go into a class, and I show, it's called a Fourier transform, but I show them the equation that you
Yes.
can now see that this equation explains what you're seeing on the wall, what the image I'm making, and try to
Yes.
help them connect what math does. Because people say, oh, I hate math, but you need to understand that math really helps explain the world around us. So I encourage all those to read, or look for access to books, libraries. Try out things. Playing for little kids is how they learn.
Yeah.
I would play it. We had a ditch, that watered our fields. My sister and I were always playing out there, building houses. Well, how do you build some stuff that doesn't fall down? So you're learning by playing, and I think more in the rural areas, you do have people that come in that are trying to help in education. Pick their brain, they'll love it. You have
Yeah.
people from Peace Corps, from different organizations around the world, that go to the more rural areas. I read stories about people that actually have come out of those areas because of folks that have gone in. But I think you see someone, ask them. People love to get asked questions,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
teachers. They want to impart their knowledge, or just help explain.
Especially engineers, just poke them
Poke us. We poke all the time,
and
but
they'll start talking.
but play, just different ages. And as parents, play with your kids in different things, to show them things that you learned, and or be excited about what they're learning about. And I think that mentoring the network, but be that help the passion, help foster the passion and the excitement, don't stamp it out.
Wow.
Like they used to do more in the older days. Like, well, you're a girl, you can't do math. Well, that stamped that out, I think, for some kids.
And also when you're trying to understand a remote or something technical, and then you break it, they'll you'll be kicked for that. You are a girl, why were you playing with these things, eh? Why were you doing this?
I,
That's how it used to be.
yes, exactly. Like, so I don't know, 10, 12 years old, I was fascinated with the gearing on my bike. So I took
Yes.
the bike apart because I wanted to understand how it worked. And I got it all back together. So I was very proud of myself. I never did toasters, but I did mechanical for whatever. That's what I had. And I
Yes.
think my mom probably wouldn't let me touch a toaster, because she needed it to work. But I took apart things that were my things, that if they broke, then it was okay.
And I've heard a lot of engineers, they talk about how they messed up things in the house, remote, toaster, they were just curious. So that's why as
Yep.
parents, we need to foster that curiosity. When you see your child is asking questions, sometimes we get irritated. Oh, this one asks too many questions. No, because that's what's popping up in their mind. And that's what they want to know, how it works, how can they fix sometimes they even know the solution they're asking, and you don't know. That's why we need to foster it, as you are
Let's figure
mentioning.
it out. Work with them to
Hmm.
figure out the solution. They have a lot more toys these days. I love Legos. I wish I had Legos when I was a kid. I get them coming in, but we couldn't afford them or something like that. But things
Yes.
like that, I think, really foster creativity and imagination in kids. And Legos is just one thing. There's so many things out there, but things you can just do in chemistry in your kitchen with baking
Yes.
soda and vinegar, for heaven's sakes. My mom used to do that with us, things like that, that just help kids start thinking about what's going on and why is it doing that. And,
Yes.
and so there's just so many areas, in science, engineering, whatever, anything to get kids interested, keep foster that interest or help
Yes.
expose them, because some kids don't know they could be interested in that unless they're exposed to it. And
Unless I export to it. Very, very important sentence you made there. And that's why we need to encourage them in the house, find games, find activities that you can work with inside the house. And when you go outside the house, also look at things that we can take kids out there to see, because you just exposing them to it is really, really important, and does a wonderful job. And most engineers that I've spoken to here, it's what they saw either outside. If you watch some of the videos, I remember one engineer was saying, we used to pass through a power plant. Can you imagine? Just passing through the road. And she would look at those, how sometimes a power plant or an electrical plant, it has all these wires rounded, all those coils, big coils.
yes,
You know,
exactly.
she's like, I used to watch that and I was like, what
Yep.
is that?
Yep.
How
How does
how
it work?
is it, what is it doing? Today she's an engineer. So activities outside, activities inside the house, just kitchen utensils. I also showcase some of the gas that we can produce from using vinegar and
Yes.
bicarbonate soda, so that, and kids go, when the balloon pops up, they go, oh, what? you know
Yeah.
that just blows their mind. So but parents, for me, girls for STEM, I believe parents, guardians, uncles, aunties, people around us are the ones who will actually nurture those curiosity for us. And that's why we are here to bring engineers on this channel, bring different types of engineers, scientists, so kids can see that they can become those. So one last more thing. I know, oh my God, we can stay here forever. I
Oh
really,
yeah.
really love your experience. I have so many questions, just that we have no time, otherwise I can keep you here. So what would you like to say to girls for STEM? That you can say anything. I'll give you time to say that. Yeah.
STEM is like a newer word. When I was a kid, that wasn't STEM. It was the science, or your
Yes.
math. And somewhere along the way, STEM came. And so now we have a word that we can put to that for our passion, because it covers it: science, technology, engineering, and math. It covers
Yes.
the whole spectrum. Because even as an engineer, if you're a physicist, chemist, you want to promote that. But what I always like to tell kids is, like, you can do it. You can
Yep.
follow your dreams and your passion. Don't let your passion die. I'm very goal oriented. I see my goal way out there, and I
Yes.
think, okay, is this whatever is in front of me,
Hmm.
choices, which one is going to get me closer to my goal? and
Yes.
and every once in a while you may have to go slightly backwards so you can take a little
Hmm.
bit shift to get there. And so
Yes.
that's okay. Some people change jobs and stuff, or you're changing schools, or you're changing degree programs, but that's okay, because I went from physics to engineering, because
Hmm.
that got me then to my path. I realized that I'm a much better engineer than physicist. I love astrophysics, love physics, but I love telescopes. I'm more a hands-on person. I like to make things. So you have to really look at what your strengths are. Build to your strengths. Sometimes people think they need to work on their weaknesses. But if you build on your strengths, some of those weaknesses will come along. And so
Yep.
I always try to tell people, keep going with your strengths, because those are your gifts. Look at your gifts and talents. Sometimes it takes other people to help them see what their gifts and talents are,
Yes.
or help encourage their gifts and talents. And if you grow from that, and you know what your God-given gift is, and you can keep working on that, and people say, well, you're really a bad writer. Well, you're going to have to learn how to write at some point, because if you're a
Yep.
scientist, you got to publish papers. But
Yes.
okay, but get good at that. And as people will help you as you come along, work with somebody to help you learn how to write technical. I finally, my dissertation, now I can write technical, but it took a while, but that's okay.
Little by little.
That's not my forte. My son can write incredibly. I don't know where he gets it from, his grandpa, my dad, not me. But we all have our gifts. We've got to. So I guess my message is, work, be passionate. Don't lose your passion.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a passion about something. And if somebody's, poo-pooing that, go find somebody to encourage you.
Yeah.
Don't get down. And yeah, we all have our down points. We've all gone through that. But that's why I encourage mentors to be there. That's teachers, parents, aunts, uncles, like you said, neighbors, you name it, to
Hmm.
to see those gifts and talents in our youth, and help them grow it, and help them find the paths to get there. And so, but I tell kids, don't give up. Don't give up. I'm here to keep encouraging you. I do have to tell you this one story, because I just love this. My favorite story. So I was
Yes.
doing one of my demos, probably most like, yeah, it was optics. I have about 10 different demos I take into schools, but my main one I started off is I call it my optics dog and pony show. And I go in and teach kids just the basics about refraction and reflection.
Hmm.
And I cannot remember the program right now. Women in STEM, something. It was for middle and high school females. And one of my colleagues would always be the local. I think it's a national organization, but would do the local one. And I'd given a presentation there, but I was and in multiple places that year. But I was at the zoo with my son, walking, and I hear this young lady yelling. I didn't realize she was talking to me. And
Hmm.
she comes running up. She's trying to stop me at the zoo. And I realize she's coming towards me. So I stop and wait for her to come. She comes with her mom. And she goes, Mom, this is the professor that taught me how to bend light. I'm like, oh my God. And so the fact she recognized me and I made an impact on her, because you never know. I do
Yes.
presentations up the wazoo, and I never
Wow.
know. And it took me a while to figure out which one she was at, and it was
Y-
one of the women's one. And so I
Yes.
was really gratified to hear that. I've heard a couple other ones. Recently, I won the what's it called, the STEM Champion Award up at the Air Force level. You can Google
Yes.
there, and
Yes. I will check it out.
and uh, and so but it was like, it's almost like a lifetime achievement award, because I have been doing this for decades. And anyway, a parent came up to me at my hometown and had said, one of the present they were thrilled to see the article got posted in my hometown and stuff. They have a little town crier thing. And she came up, and apparently one of the presentations I had done up in northern New Mexico, I don't get to do that many there,
Yes.
uh encouraged her enough that she became a civil engineer.
Wow.
I swear.
And how nice to see someone you encourage that they become engineer. Oh my God, it's
And
just
you don't even
amazing.
know. I have no idea how many people I've affected. Hopefully in a positive way, you know. But also, sometimes if kids try it out and it's just not their thing, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Because we all have our gifts and talents. My son is
Hmm.
exceptional with people. You know, he's really good. He's a good writer. You know,
Yeah.
everybody has their gifts, and we need everybody. I tell people, and like my cousin, he always wanted to be an electrician. He finally got to do that. And we have
Wow.
mechanics. I said we need everybody because otherwise, if you have a bunch of engineers, who's going to fix my car? Who's going to wire my house?
And it's true, we need every talent in engineering.
Yes.
That's why I was like, everybody is needed. Their talent, their strength is needed.
Absolutely.
Their, because, and again, I always tell everybody that all careers, as we move on in the next decade, because technology has evolved tremendously,
Oh,
they will all require STEM skills.
yep.
So we would definitely they'll still join us in STEM to have all the skills. So
You have to have
everybody's
that.
in it.
Absolutely. You got to have that basic in math, I think, to get along in the world, and basics in computer skills. You know what? The kids growing up now, they're going to have careers and jobs that we don't even know about yet. They're
Yeah.
just, don't you think? I mean, that's the
Oh,
way I.
yes, they will actually, the way I see kids are becoming more smarter and smarter because now they've been exposed to so
Yes.
many materials than we had. And
Earlier
they're
on in
having
life.
Yes, and they are starting at another level compared to us.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Yep.
will be geniuses. And that's why for them to enter into STEM skills, technical skills, piece of cake. And once you're in STEM, they can always do whatever they want to do. They can become whatever they want if they have STEM skills, the
Yep.
piece of cake. So, I believe STEM careers, STEM skills will be needed in every area. Let's talk about medicine. We need STEM skills
Mm-hmm.
there.
Absolutely.
Social sciences, we need STEM skills. Lighting in terms of, you are
Mm-hmm.
already in light. Lighting, music.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna need engineer. Okay, tell me about something that we won't need STEM skills. We're gonna need STEM skills through and through. Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Atencio. Again, we're speaking to Emelda Atencio, Dr. Laser System Technology Section Chief and Air Force Research Laboratory. Guys, what a privilege. I'm just so excited speaking to her, and she has so much insight in STEM to share with us. I hope you can come again, Doctor, to come and share with us
Thing.
more and more stuff. We'll really, be really happy to see you here again.
It's actually a division chief, but that's okay.
Division chief, yes. Okay. No, thank you so much for that. I was looking at your LinkedIn. I was like, okay.
Oh, my LinkedIn is way old. I haven't updated that for a long time.
A long time. Okay.
So I don't
No,
know.
thank
Maybe
you.
I can't even remember my password to LinkedIn. I have to just redo the whole thing.
Wow. No, thank you so much
Yeah,
for having
but
you. We really do appreciate. And thank you so much, guys, for watching us. Thank you so much. And make sure you subscribe. Go back and watch our discussion. It was so interesting, full of information, guys. Thank you so much. And see you next Saturday.